All right, you guys, welcome back. This is Real Nathan Daley. This is our special segment on our channel called The Crime Classroom, and we are going to break down the Sonya Massey case. Trial ended. The suspect, former deputy Sean Grayson, found guilty of murder, second-degree murder, of killing Sonya Massey in her home. For those who remember that case, it was wild. So much controversy surrounding that. And again, this just brings up these issues that we have in law enforcement. You guys, we talk about it all the time on this channel, and we're going to cover a lot of things over here because there are two camps as it relates to this issue. One side does not agree with the charges. They believe it should be murder, okay, not second-degree murder. And on the other side, you have some people who believe he's innocent and that this was self-defense. We're going to talk about that. You guys, as a use of force expert, I will explain these things to you. Why he is guilty. Okay, his actions were unacceptable. All right, so let's talk about this. And first, let's dive into the actual criminal charges. We need to know what first and second degree mean, the difference, and I'm going to explain them to you. Why the jury did not go with first, why they went with second degree murder, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts as to which degree it should be. And then I want to know what you think. Do you think it should be first or do you think it should be second? So let's dive into the actual criminal charges, and then I want to get your thoughts. So right here, we're going to start off right from the top, first degree murder. Right here we have in Illinois. A person who kills an individual without lawful justification commits first degree murder, okay? Now here are all the little caveats, okay? He or she either intends to kill or do great bodily harm to the individual or another, okay? Or knows that such act will cause death to the individual or another, okay? He or she knows the acts create a strong probability of death, okay? Or great bodily harm to the individual. What does this mean? This means that this person knows that their actions will cause great bodily harm or death, and it also means that the action is unlawful, meaning that self-defense is the only justifiable reason to take somebody's life. And if you don't have self-defense, then the act is unlawful. So what the state is saying is that the officer did not have self-defense. Well, the officer is saying that, no, I was defending myself from boiling hot water. That's what this whole thing is about. All right, so now let's look at second degree. A person commits the offense of second degree murder when he or she commits the offense of first degree murder, okay? So what does that mean? It means that before you can even have second degree, first degree has to apply, okay? So we know that this person killed somebody unlawfully, all right? So we're all in agreement, or this is what they have to prove, okay? The state has to prove that he unlawfully killed her, okay? We got that. Now, this is what makes second degree very interesting, so let's read it, all right? Subsection 1, what does it say? At the time of the killing, he or she is acting under a sudden and intense passion. What does that mean? That means during that time, the person was under intense emotional discomfort, so much to a point that their response to that was violence, okay? So here we go, intense passion, but here's the other piece, resulting from, okay, why is this important? Resulting from serious provocation by the individual who got killed, meaning that the other person, the victim, was provoking you in such a way where you lost control of yourself emotionally and you acted in a way of violence against that person, which caused them to die, okay? Meaning that's an unlawful act. There's no justification in that. But your reasoning behind it was intense, emotional foolishness, okay? You lost control of yourself. All right. So what this code section is saying is that, okay, we understand your BS excuse. We understand that this is the reasoning why this is important, because there's a difference between when a person has a malice, a forethought, meaning that they intended, wanted to, planned it, premeditated, killing somebody, versus that the killing happened out of my loss of emotional control. I didn't want to do it. I lost control and did it. Two totally different acts. Two totally different mindsets, okay? And so this is important, okay, while we break this down, but here's the other piece, all right? So or another whom the offender endeavors to kill, but he or she negligently or accidentally causes the death of the individual. So, which means that this could be negligent based. All right. This passion erupted in you, and say you get so mad that you punch the person so hard, they fall back, hit their head, they bleed out, they die. Okay. And so you have these type of nuances. So the code section is developed for that. All right. But now let's see, look, section 2. At the time of the killing, he or she believes the circumstances to be such that if they existed, okay, I like this wordplay. Okay, what? Would justify or exonerate the killing under the principles stated in Article 7. But here's the thing. That was a mouthful. Let me break it down. What subsection 2 is saying is at the time of the killing, the killer, okay, the deputy, thought that the action that they were doing was justified. All right. This is in some states, they call this an imperfect self-defense, meaning that you acted under all the totality of everything that you saw. You felt that this was an appropriate, measured response, that you felt that you had a right to kill somebody based on their actions. Okay. This is what we call imperfect self-defense. So essentially, what is it saying? That he or she believes at the time of the killing that the circumstances be such that the circumstances of the incident, the boiling hot water, the officer is an idiot. He thought that the boiling hot water under the circumstances that she provided or that Sonya was actually giving out was enough justified reason for him to put a bullet in her head. And that's what this piece right here says for second-degree murder. If they existed, would justify and exonerate. Meaning that if it was legit self-defense case, if he legitimately was in fear for his life, then he would be justified in taking her life. Okay? So this is why I believe the jury leaned on second-degree murder. Okay? So that's so important for us to talk about. All right? Before we get back into that, let's run the story. Okay, let's run this whole thing down. He got second degree. The jury felt that they were more comfortable with second degree murder versus first degree murder because they're looking at his explanation and saying that he felt that this situation was at a level of a threat that deemed necessary for him to draw his weapon and shoot her in the head. Okay. Well, let's rewind back what happened, you guys. I'm going to put up some still shots here. I'm not going to play the video. We've all seen the video. All right, for YouTube purposes, we're not going to play the video. Listen, the pot of boiling water starts to go off. He asks his partner to go over there and check it. As he's going over there, Sonya jumps up. She goes over there and gets to the pot. She holds onto the pot. She picks it up. She's looking at him, okay? And all of a sudden, the officers or deputies start stepping back. She says, "Why are you stepping back?" And both of them say, "Well, you got hot water in your hand." Okay, fair enough. Sean puts his hand over his gun immediately. Now, this is prior to her ever becoming any type of threat at all. There's no sign of a threat. The distance at where he's at, she's not manifesting a threat. She's not moving in a way of any type of an aggressive manner. She hasn't even threatened to harm him, okay? He literally has no justification drawing his weapon. His hand is resting on his weapon at this time while she's holding the pot and she's looking at him. And then she made a statement, you guys. What was that statement? She said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." Now listen.
I'll shoot you in that name. You better I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face. Okay, I'm sorry. Drop the pot! Drop the pot!
Whatever he felt when she rebuked him and said the name of Jesus that got him all agitated, you guys, he was threatened by that. That threatened him. You guys, that's not in the criminal book, but it's in the Bible. All right? It ain't in the law book, but it's in the book of the law. You feel me? So this is what we're talking about. That the words that she used were not threatening. Not physically threatening, right? But there's no law against spiritually agitating the mess out of somebody. There's no law in the book of Illinois that say that you can't rebuke somebody in the name of Jesus. There's no law against that. It's not a crime. She did not commit a crime against the officer. She didn't threaten him physically in the physical. She threatened him in the spiritual, all right? That's not a crime. And she's standing still holding a pot of water. At a distance that's no threat to him at all. She had no weapon. She didn't threaten him. She didn't move towards him aggressively. She simply said words that agitated him spiritually, all right? And from there, right, it's almost like some demons came out. There's no legal justified reason for him to point a weapon and then threaten to shoot her in the face. All right? Now what happens? She says, I'm sorry. She puts the pot down and she crouches down beneath our view where we cannot see. Well, where's the threat? Why are you now walking towards her, right? He's closing the distance, walking towards her with his gun out. Why? Why? Right? You're not there for a crime that she committed. You're in her home. And you drew a weapon on her because she rebuked you. What did Sonya see that we can't see in this video? What does she feel?
Sean Grayson's partner, you see him here in this court sketch, is telling the jury tonight that Massey never seemed to be a threat that night last July.
Yeah, Hallie, that was explosive. He took the stand late in the day. His name is Deputy Dawson Farley, and he basically was immediately questioned by prosecutors. He was a witness for the prosecution about Sonya Massey and his feelings about what she did when she had that pot of water. They were asking him things like, were you nervous based on what she was doing? He said no. They said, were you worried she was going to hurt you? He said no. Then he went on to clarify that he was indeed scared that night, but not of Massey. Instead, he said he was scared of his partner, Sean Grayson.
Mind you, here's the other issue. When he drew his weapon, his partner never drew his weapon up until after he started to walk her down. What does that mean? That means that where was the fear? If this was truly a situation where the officer feared for his life, then both officers would have had their weapon out. So now what's the other issue? As he's walking, closing the distance, you see her pop back up and then take the pot, and then she flinged it in his direction. The distance in which they were at before he started firing at her, the water never made it towards him through the air, but on the ground, yeah. You see the water start running towards him. And he shot her. He shot 3 times and shot her in the head. Now, so here's the issue. Is that a justified shoot? No. Why is that? If you are the provocateur, you cannot then now lean on self-defense. You cannot manifest a self-defense scenario, put yourself in harm's way, and then execute a person behind it as officers. You can't do it. What does that look like, you guys? That looks like someone trying to get away from you in a vehicle, and you run around the front of the car. You stand in front of the car while it's driving 80 miles an hour with your gun out. Okay? And then you shoot the driver as the driver's approaching you. As an officer, that self-defense is not justified. Why? Because as an officer, you can't claim self-defense when you put yourself in a place to then have to defend yourself, right? The threat has to be brought to you, it has to be manifested at you or someone else that you're protecting, right? The other issue with this situation is there's several other things the officer could have done to de-escalate this encounter. By 1, simply backing up. By 2, saying, ma'am, can you please just put the pot down until we finish? Just take it off the stove, ma'am, blah, 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 blah. Okay? It's that simple, you guys. Why did they choose second degree? Well, because the officer truly felt in his mind that he feared for his life. That's his argument. That's his defense. And they allowed him to keep it. And the jury felt like the officer may have had a legitimate concern. Why? Because she did have the boiling hot water and she did toss it. One would argue, though, that if a person is innocent and they're inside their own home, they didn't commit a crime, they called the officers there to do a job, and then all of a sudden the officers pull a gun on them, one could actually argue, and this will be my argument as an expert witness, one would argue, it's safe to say, that the victim, the homeowner, Sonya, is the one who felt in fear. Right? She's afraid. She doesn't know why the officer pulled his gun out on her just from her rebuking him. And then he's walking her down with the gun, and then he threatens. You guys, this is the caveat. He threatened to shoot her in the face. And it's not just that he threatened, it's the type of language that he used. I'm going to shoot you in your effing face. I'm going to shoot you in your effing face? You know what that says to me? Malice. You know what that means to me? Intent. What does that mean? It means you spoke out exactly what you wanted to do. You put it out there. So what's my take on this? Do I think it's second degree? Absolutely not. I think this is first degree murder.
I need crime scene taken around the house if you guys can. But other than that, that's I think it. Anything else suspect?
Me?
I didn't know what happened. You got any crime scene?
Yeah, I'm good. This fucking bitch is crazy.
So imagine they're playing this inside the courtroom. Her family is in there. The jury is listening. And he says, this effing B is crazy. And you mean that's second degree murder? Mm-mm. What did she do that was crazy? No, this was first degree. Here's how I make my argument. All right. And this is in closing, and again, in the comments, I want to know what you guys think. Do you think it's first or second degree murder? Here's why I believe it's first degree murder is because we can see the malice of forethought. We can see the premeditated nature, meaning that there was no justification. There was no legal justification. And through his training, there's no reason why he should have believed at any point in time, no reasonable officer under these circumstances would have believed that shooting the person in the head using deadly force was an appropriate action. No reasonable officer. His partner himself stated that he did not see her being a threat. Just because you think it in your head, no, now I'm going to actually hammer in on the fact that you're lying. That you're lying. And that what actually set you off, what set you off was a statement that she made. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And that sparked a level of anger, frustration, and one would even argue hatred, this vitriol response. You take your gun, you take it out, and you better not, or I'll effing shoot you in the effing face. Better not what? She never acted anything out. She never manifested a threat. She never attempted to do anything. She made no aggressive stance against you. She simply was in her home holding a pot of water. And as you drew down the gun on her, she said, sorry, put the pot down, went down. One could argue in this moment, you have the homeowner, Sonya Massey, now feeling like I am in fear of being killed by a police officer in my house and I didn't do anything. Now, are you as a citizen, as a human being in your own home, are you not allowed to defend yourself against a tyrannical government, a bad officer, an unjustified threat? The answer is yeah. As a citizen, you're able to defend yourself. One can argue that her acting in the manner that she did with that pot was her using self-defense in fear that she was going to be killed by an officer, in which he did carry out that threat. First degree murder. First degree murder. Now, shout out to the state prosecutors for putting second degree on the table, because there's cases like this where you have prosecutors who get overzealous and decide not to give that lesser charge, right? Because they put too many eggs in a basket, and you always got to account for jurors who are going to share some or have some type of compassion for the suspect, but that's my argument, you guys. Tragedy. It's a tragic situation. It's unfortunate. There's a lot of reasons why these things happen, whether it's poor training, biases, racial profiling, whether it's just poor character, and some people are just flat out evil, you guys. So there's a lot to this problem. Can it be fixed? You can significantly reduce this problem with the proper tools and the proper things that you can implement. I have plenty of ideas, but you know, this is a bigger conversation for another day. But I want to know your thoughts, you guys. At the end of the day, it's a tragedy. God bless her family for all that they had to go through regarding this. Thank you for people for keeping this story alive. And, you know, keep her family in prayer, you guys. It's still a tragic situation. Make sure you like, comment, and share. Please like the video. Share the video, guys. It goes a long way. I appreciate you. And good night and God bless.